This podcast is brought to you by the following
Why don't you go like
sponsors.
this and have lightning come from your hands? Yeah.
I'll just do this.
Effects.
Finishers MMA is located at 3761 Nicholas Street in Easton, PA, Lehigh Valley's home for 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. The amount of people that they have over there instructing is insane. They have J.M. Holland, John Thor Blanks opening up 10th Planet Allentown, Zach Meslaney, Grace Gundrum. It is elite teaching over there. They teach self-defense, no-gi jiu-jitsu, and kickboxing. They have a kids martial arts program that is building and growing, and Grace is teaching every single kids class. Get over there. They are the biggest killers in the game. That's 3761 Nicholas Street in Easton, PA. Do you have anything to interject?
You didn't let me talk. I don't know.
No, I would like trying to get quicker on that. But they have multiple schools, and it's www.finishersmma.com. That has their schedule on there, and it has when they rotate everything. And they have evening classes because if you work and you can't get there, they even have, I think, an 8 o'clock class on Wednesday.
The thing I like the best is that they treat people with respect. It's not like one of those weird places you go and they talk down to you and, you know, like I'm a big bad sensei kind of crap.
No, not at all.
They're super cool guys. Everybody that goes there is nice. Everybody's friendly. It's just a wonderful place to go and learn jiu-jitsu. Wonderful place to go learn choke people.
Yeah.
Just go choke some people.
Every time I've been over there, and I get a little intimidated sometimes going into classes like that, even like going to the gym or like the Y, I get a little uncomfortable, and they make you feel at home there. Super professional. The guys have been doing it for a while. Zach, JM, and Thor all have their black belts. So
and they have crazy top-notch equipment. Everything is awesome. It's not some...
Yep. Every now and then they do
awesome. It's an awesome place.
Seminars and stuff there too. So check it out. It's finishersmma.com, and they are located at 3761 Nicholas Street in Easton, PA. Their social media is everywhere, so you can go find them. And thank you guys for being a sponsor. Taylor Edge Wood Company. Drew Hoagland. They make handmade and local crafting and bringing you gorgeous custom wood design. If you're looking for a custom table, nightstand, countertop, and more, they can help you. Drew made this table and that desk. A lot of people always have asked us who did this, and it was Taylor Edge Wood Company. Their social media you can find is Taylor Edgewood Co on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram has a lot of the pictures and stuff. That's the best place to follow them. They just got the website up. It should be running by the time this airs, but that's tayloredgewoodco.com, and he's going to have cutting boards on there. Their T-shirts are really cool. I know they're doing fall shirts for that, and he's just a stand-up guy. He's done nothing but help the show since day one and has really ultimate crafting.
Yeah, if you're looking to get something different for your home and you don't want to have the same boring home with the same boring box store, stupid tables that are particle board that are wrapped in crappy vinyl stuff, check him out. He'll come and give you an estimate, let you pick out whatever you want. He's a crazy nut for black walnut, and he loves the stuff, the smell
He's
of it.
Obsessed with
crazy.
it.
It's a little awkward, but he's very very talented. And like I said, if you want something custom and nothing says that you're cool, then I have a damn custom table and you don't.
Yeah, and you get professional quotes, and he's also got that he's going to be having that on the website where you'll be able to get quotes off of there. So if you're looking for top-notch,
locally sourced,
everything's out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, support local people.
Yeah, so hit them up. You can hit up tayloredgewoodco@gmail.com for any inquiries on what you need. Instagram's a good way to get a hold of him, and he runs it with his wife, so they're super local to us, and they helped us out since the beginning. So please go check them out, and thank you for being a sponsor.
All right, our next sponsor is All Valley Rooter and Plumbing.
Jared LaBarba. I've been friends with Jared for almost my entire life, and he came down to the studio looking to sponsor, and we had a long conversation, and he wanted help building in the Nazareth area. He has a lot of work in the Lehigh Valley, but he specifically wanted to get into Nazareth, and we have a really big reach in Nazareth. It's not a big place, but we do have bigger reach than anyone else here.
We control the whole
We
town.
own Nazareth. But Jared went through his whole story and told me everything he's doing, and his plumbing is top notch. Yes. They do faucet repair, sub pump replacement, sink installation, pipe installation, leaks, toilet repair, and more. They have 24-hour service, 365 days a year. They charge by the job, not the hour. All services come with a 1-year warranty and guarantee. He's going to be our plumber from now on if we have any problems with the sink and whatnot. Yeah. Having plumbing issues is probably one of the biggest headaches ever.
It's one of those things that if something goes bad with your plumbing, it's really bad. There is no minor plumbing issue. And it's good to have someone that's local that you can call, that you know, and say, hey, I really need your help, as opposed to some guy that he's going to spend, he's going to take 3 hours to get there and he's going to show up. He's going to overcharge you. It's just not worth it. Go with a local guy, super professional. He can do everything you really want. He lists a bunch of stuff there, but I'm pretty sure he can do pretty much everything involving plumbing. So I'm just going to call him for everything. So. Whatever.
Yeah, and you have 2 properties that you can use them for now, too, because you didn't have a good experience.
No, they were horrible.
I wish you would say who it was.
I really hate that.
His website is allvalleyrouter.net, and that is the place where you're going to find all of the information you need to get a hold of Jared if you have any plumbing issues, or if you're just trying to get quotes for stuff. But they are 365 days a year. They are open 24 hours, and we want to thank him for being one of our first sponsors on the show. It means a lot, and all you Nazareth peeps or anybody in the Lehigh Valley who wants a trusted, reliable, professional plumber, please contact Jared.
And our next sponsor is Rips Auto Detail. I love this guy. Go ahead.
One of my favorite guests on the show.
Cool. He's a really nice guy. He's a very good DJ also, by the way.
Yes, and he's super professional at his job. He's got over 15 years of experience. He is located at 630 North Nelson Street in Allentown, PA. He does paint correction, ceramic coating, interior, and pro auto detail. If you follow him on Rips Auto Detail on Instagram, it's insane what this guy actually does with a car.
I am recommending that you go to Popeyes, which is right up the street, and you put fingerprints all over your vehicle, and then you go there, and he will make it perfect again.
Yeah, he's got 15 years of experience. He's got a package for everyone. What he stressed on the show is that he doesn't just do super high-end vehicles. Yep. He can do anything from, if you just have a daily driver and you just like having a clean car, you can get that done, all the way up to getting a boat done.
Yeah, well, it's worth it because I had my SUV detailed last year, actually, just because, especially when you live around here with the salt and everything else, if you get a really good detail on it, it actually will keep your car looking better than dealing with all the salt, because you keep going for car washes and stuff. That's not good. So if you get a really good detail on it, it actually will help all that stuff. So it basically winterizes your thing. And plus, when it gets nice out, you just go there and get it, just touched up a little bit, get it, refreshed, and you have a car that doesn't look like you're a slob.
You can contact him directly on Instagram, and that's at Rips Auto Detail, or you can call him at 484-553-1366. If you really want to know what this guy does, check out our past podcast with him. It's got a boatload of information. I didn't know, I knew he was good at what he was doing, and he opened his own business and all that, but to hear the story of how he got to where he's at and the 15 years experience, he's a super pro. He's a really great guy. Just go check out his stuff at Rips Auto Detail on Instagram, Facebook, and his website is coming soon. So go check him out, and he's one of our first sponsors as well. And we couldn't do the show without all these people, so I want to thank everyone. And shout out to Rips Auto Detail, and give him a follow.
And he gives you a free bucket of chicken.
No, he does not.
He's from Popeyes, says he does. Put that in there.
He didn't even like Popeyes.
Rips, you need to give out free chicken. Thank you.
Check out what he's doing on social media, and we won't use that part. And then we'll end it with, this is a professional Class A operation. Check out the podcast we did with him.
Our next sponsor is Luke Delmeyer Custom Knives. If you've ever wanted a custom knife, say a chef knife, say a camp knife, say any kind of cool custom knives, I'm sure any of you guys have watched Forge and Fire or whatever, this guy actually does that. He makes wonderful, crazy knives. He's leaps and bounds above anybody you're going to have around here. He's a good dude. You can contact him and give him basic parameters of what you want to make for our custom knives. He does sell his own knives on his website.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different knives on the website and his Instagram as well.
Instagram, he puts it up a little bit, and he'll say, hey, man, I'm selling this. His website's lukedelmeyer.com. Yeah, I mean, he lists a bunch of stuff. Like I said, you can ask for the custom stuff. He's starting a new line, which you can talk about, of the chef knives.
Yeah, the chef knife that he brought over to the studio was incredible because he showed me the demo one that they started with that he made out of a leaf spring, which is insane. But then what he handed off to me, I immediately just wanted to start prepping and cutting onions.
You were trying to.
I was excited to cook, and that's what a chef knife should do. And if
you
you're
just kept telling him you wanted to use it to cut something.
I did. And if you're looking for a chef knife or any sort of custom knives that you would like in your life for whatever reason, this guy, the amount of work that he's putting behind it, the craftsmanship that's behind his actual craft with blacksmithing, the dude's extremely talented, extremely humble, and please go check out his social media, and it's Luke Delmeyer at Instagram. That's where you're going to get a lot of his knives. He's testing the knives.
But you forgot the coolest part.
What's that?
You want to make your own knife?
Yeah.
He's got classes.
Yeah. That's right.
He has his own classes. You can go there, look like an idiot, because that's what I'll probably look like when I do mine. But you can go there, and he offers classes and teaches you how to make a knife. And I think that's awesome because there is no one and nowhere in this area that does that.
No. And if you're looking for a custom knife of any range, whether it's something that you're just looking for hiking, or if you're looking for a chef knife, or you're just looking to collect something as a hobby, go check out his social media, check out his webpage, get in touch with him, and see which knife is right for you. And that's lukedelmeyer.com. And thank you for being a sponsor. Never Again Radio. This is where I hit the mic every time. Never Again Radio, episode 41.
Yeah, baby. The lucky 41.
41. Welcome to Never Again Radio.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys. Truly. Thank you.
To list your talents, I don't know where to start. Actress, model, teacher, tactical firearms, and Call of Duty character. Does that sum everything up? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't know. And I get, like, I've been doing a lot of, like, meetings, and they're like, so, like, how do you define what you do? And I'm like, I just do whatever it, like, interests me.
Yeah.
So it's, like, training in all sorts of ways, and then teaching, and then whatever comes my way and sounds fun, I'll do it.
So, but it's not really work if you're having fun.
Right.
And it seems like you're doing everything fun. So
right. And I'm grateful too, because like I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, I do what I love every day, and I'm grateful for that. Plus I get to like have a say in it, and I like having a little bit of creative control and leadership within it. But we're growing,
Have you always been I mean, just from the first 15 minutes of talking to you when we were setting this up, you're very free-spirited, very free-flowing. You can tell you just kind of go with you're a very feelings-based person. I picked up on that right away. Is that how you grew up? Were your parents like that? Like, where did that, because it's pretty much what defines your personality, and I feel like that's what I gather off your social media as the core of what it is. But where did that come from?
I appreciate you for even noticing. I think it came from for thinking that, about it. But my mom was always super free spirited. My dad's kind of a hard ass. And so I think it came from me wanting to be more like me wanting to do these things, and my dad saying no, and me wanting to be like defiant. And then another part of it, I think, was my mom always telling us like, you can go do and be whatever you want. And like I said before, my mom's a firefighter, and she became a firefighter like behind her parents' back, because her dad was kind of the same way. It was like, no, you can't do this, and this is for men or whatever. And so it was cool to see, my mom in pretty much a male's kind of career choice.
Yeah. How hard was that for her to even do that?
I don't know, but I've not ever heard her say that it was like anything that she couldn't handle. Like she fucking loved it. And now I actually have a twin sister, and my twin sister's going to be a firefighter too.
Oh, that's crazy.
Oh, she's so rad too. And we just spent the day yesterday in the pool and hanging out. She just graduated EMT school. Despite this whole lockdown thing, she got it done, which is good. And yeah, so I think
how'd they do all that? Did they do like video courses and then?
Yeah, they did Zoom meetings, and I actually sat in on them. They were really interesting.
Yeah.
They were like, I mean, it's medical stuff, of course, and I never really was in school, so I never got to like sit through anatomy and like enjoy it. But now as an adult, I'm seeing the things that I get to pick and choose. Even like TAC Med to me is so interesting, and I'm like, how fun is it that I get to go and learn how to, do these things as a part of like what I'm doing? I would have never thunk. But,
no, it's one of those things you never would think, but it's cool. I took a bunch of those classes too, and then all the tourniquet classes, like stop the bleed and all that stuff. And they're super interesting, especially you watch the videos and you're like, this is brutal. Like,
and
life is brutal. So
and shit happens, and most of the time when shit does happen, that's kind of where you shut off the part of you that's like, this might be too much, or this or that, the other, and it becomes so like. You become so zoned in on what needs to get done. Yeah. At least for me under stress, like when I'm under stress, I'm so much more like on edge, but aware of what's going on. So you can kind of cut the fat and just get done what needs to get done and process it later. But it's,
I think that thing, it's like the more you do it and it seems repetitive, but if you keep doing it, it just like when my daughter was young, I can still remember to this day, she fell and cut her finger and I freaked the fuck out. I just picked her up. I ran outside. My wife goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, I don't know. I just took her. I ran away. So then
like, maybe I'm going to get you out of here. Like,
she was like, "Why would you take her away from the house where all the bandages are?" And I go, "I don't know. I just took her."
He just panicked.
It's gone.
Panicked and ran.
But now I've been through so many first aid classes and, like I said, all those kind of classes. And all of a sudden last year I took my daughter to school and she caught her finger in the door and just started bawling, had blood everywhere. So I popped the trunk and I have all my med supplies.
Yep.
So I did all this stuff. I came over and I go, "You're good. Go to school."
Oh
and then
my God.
a lady came over. She's like, "Are you a medic?" And I go, "No, I'm a bail bondsman. I just have stuff in my car."
I'm a hero, ma'am.
You're just a
She's like,
superhero.
She goes, "You're a what?" And I go, "Don't worry.
Dad.
That's a whole other story. We'll just do that."
That's awesome.
Yeah, you get used to it.
Yeah, and it's fun and it's different. And then, you add in this element of like, saving life and preserving it. And I think it makes it, worth it, even if you get a little woozy from it,
Yeah, it's brutal. Some of that stuff, especially the ENT stuff. Oh, it's just.
I know.
Ugh.
And, I feel like a lot of people don't, at least for me, and when I speak generally, I speak about the general population of where I'm at, which is LA, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people in LA are so sheltered and coddled and so in this like hole about the realities of things that can happen, and so where was I going with this? Oh, so for me, and I feel that way as well because I haven't seen a lot of wretched shit. But I remember when I first got my first kill with an elk, I was unsure if I could handle the blood in the guts or whatever because I had seen it the night before and it wasn't my kill. And I saw it and I was like, fuck, dude, like, I don't know if I can do this. And then I killed him. And as soon as that was done, I was like, I'm going to do this. I need to do this. And it totally took out any kind of, I don't know if I can handle this. It was like, you can handle this more than anything. And for me, it made me feel so much more centered and in tune with myself as like a being, as like a human where I'm like, you harvest, gather your own food. This is part of life. But it changed my life, and I'm so grateful for it.
Did you?
That's the thing. It's like if you do that and you take an animal's life, you're obligated to do everything. Because you're like, well, I just took this animal's life. Like I owe them the respect to actually do what I'm supposed to do. Like I can't just wimp out now and just go, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah,
it was so spiritual too. And you know what? And for me being a shooter, the whole experience of hunting trip I've been hunting since I was a kid, but this is my first like successful one. So it was like sweet. But like I thought that, I'm a shooter, I'm going to like, that's not going to be the hard part. Well, I was shooting a 308 at like 400 yards. Like that shit was the hard part for me.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it was done, it became this totally spiritual thing where like this adrenaline dump of now you're firing and then you did it and now we're going after it. We're making sure that it's down. Once it's down, we're rolling, and it became a process.
And the fact that it's an elk, if that thing isn't dead, you're in deep shit if you're tracking it.
Yeah. Were you nervous walking up to it?
No, I think I don't know, man. It was so like,
yeah.
I walked up. I mean, the first thing I did to it was prayed over it. And I was like, because I had been praying this entire trip. I was up in my where I was posted up, looking over this this kind of meadowy valley kind of thing, and for like 4 days in like the freezing cold snow, right? And I'm just sitting there, and I usually bring reading material with me this time, and I usually bring way too much, and I never open any of it. This time I brought one book, and it was the Bible, and I read the Word the whole time I was out there. And then fell asleep and then woke up. But I was praying this whole trip, and I asked the Lord to give, that we could be successful in this one. Curious to see how he was going to deliver, if he was going to give me one, how that was going to affect me, what lesson I was going to learn from it, right? Because I always expect to learn something out of what I'm seeking, right? And so I was curious about it. And so I was really engulfed in that process of being aware of it as it was going on and feeling what I was feeling, but also, so I remember the first thing I did was I prayed over it and I touched it. And I was like, this is crazy. And after that was like, okay, now I need to clean you up. I need to make sure that I take care of you and see that every need of yours is met from here on out until you're processed and I bring you home. And even in bringing it home, I mean, to see, us put in this work. I mean, I climbed this mountain, this like, to me, it didn't look that big from far away. And then I sat at the bottom of it looking up at it. And I was like, what the fuck was I thinking? And it's like an 80% grade, like mile high trek up. And at the time I was a smoker. And at the time I had like 5 layers of clothes on top and bottom and snow boots. And I'm like in a rifle, and I'm like, I get up this fucking mountain only to run it back down and then run back up it because I left something in the truck. And so once I got back up there and we had, done this whole thing, where was I? It was just, and it was a cool experience, but bringing it back home after all of that and crying to my mom on the phone, on the way home, because I was feeling all of these things and I wasn't sad. I was just like, I was so engulfed in, the process of life. And for me, it stripped everything down. And then I brought it home, and my mom and my dad don't talk. They they don't hate each other, but they're really not that close of friends anymore. And I mean, my dad was calling my mom, hey, we got elk over here, and giving it to my aunts and my uncles, and then for me, bringing it home, cooking it up and feeding my fiance I was like, this is what life's about.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like you brought everything together by bringing it home.
Yeah, it was such a full body experience. Like to me, that it changed my perspective on a lot of different things, and to going into, the TAC med, they're not really relatable, but in where I'm trying to bring it in is, where people don't really have to see these things if they don't, choose to sometimes in today's stage, where if they don't want to, I had friends that before, they're not my friends now, but that were like, well, don't go and harvest your own food. Just go to the grocery store. And I'm like, you're so ass backwards from the way that I feel. But people choose to not see, or they choose not to feel or to experience some things. And for me, choosing it changed my entire perspective.
It's easier to put blinders on than it is to actually have an open mind.
Right.
And that's how it's always been. I mean, growing up, I always had guns. I always carried guns. I always had it. And I had a lot of friends that just say, I don't understand why you need a gun all the time.
Right.
Because my job, I'm around people that get arrested nonstop.
Right.
And if I have to pick one up, I don't want them coming to my house. I don't want them coming in my office. They're sheltered. So my wife's a teacher. Mm-hmm. So when I go to her meetings with all their, her friends, I'm the coolest person there because they don't do anything like I do.
Right.
So I just tell them stories of, criminals and all that stuff, but they don't know any of that. That's a whole different world that doesn't exist to them.
Right. Well, but a lot of people live in this mindset of nothing bad's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And to me, it's that's alarming because even looking at the people that are so unaware of the things that are going on around them, you could run up from behind everyone out there because they're not paying attention on their phone.
Yeah.
They don't realize that the way that things can be sometimes. So yeah, they're shielded from it, and I'm like, dude, we live in LA. Rudy's car just got stolen the other day, if you can believe it. You know what I mean? Out of our off of our street. So
then what do you think they do once they find the registration and just go, holy shit, I'm going to be found Any
I don't
bad
know,
things
but
that-
you know what? This is what I think. I'm like, because we're like the kind of neighbors that I'm a neighborly person. I like to meet my neighbors. I like to talk to them. I like to wave to them, even if they're not my neighbor. I'm waving. And but I'm always outside, and I'm always like around, and I see a lot of things that are going on. And Rudy comes outside all the time, take out the trash in his little like sungas, like his little like little shorts.
Yeah, I know.
And so I'm like, everybody knows who this guy is, right? I'm like, no, our house. And so I don't know, but honestly, I think it was probably somebody like on drugs or something like that probably took it,
Or they just picked an area.
Yeah, well, and it's we rent a guest house of one of our friends, and he's a cop here in LA, and he's warned us. He's like sometimes like the homeless or those that are all strung out on drugs will come through the neighborhoods at night. You just gotta make sure you lock up your shit.
Yeah,
you're checking around and things like that, and it happens out here. You know what I mean? We live in a nice area, but everywhere around it is not. So
yeah, well, and you think about all the people. Like if I have to go, I don't do it that much anymore, but when I'd have to go look for people and I'd bring people with me, they'd be so paranoid, like try to walk a certain way, do stuff. And I just keep telling them every time, don't worry, nobody's paying attention. You can do pretty much whatever you want because nobody gives a shit anymore. Nobody cares. You can walk down the street. I can walk into buildings and act like I'm supposed to be there. Nobody's going to question it ever. Mm-hmm. But if you walk in and you're just looking at everybody really weird, like you're drawing attention to yourself. I said, but most people don't know what's going on anymore. It's just people, look how all those videos of people walking in the store that's being robbed. Right. They walk in and sit there and shop. And then finally, like 5 minutes later, they're like, oh shit, it's being robbed.
Or hear someone get this. I was in the grocery store. This was probably a couple months ago. I don't have my CCW yet, but I'm applying for it and everything. And I was in the grocery store. And, these like 4 guys came in, they were like wrestling, looking like they were about to fight or whatever. And all of these people around me, I'm in LA, they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, they're like 20 yards away from me. If they have a gun, it's going to be a hard shot for me. So I keep for them to, I'm like, I keep shopping. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God. And they're like, oh my gosh, can you believe that? And I'm like, well, dude, like as long as you know what's going on around you, what is standing there like a deer in headlights going to do? I'm like, worst comes to worst, I already know where the emergency exits. I'm just going.
Yeah, see, I'm glad. See, I think like that too. I go to restaurants. I sit towards the back. Yeah. I know where I know what and half the time my wife will walk out and go, I don't even know where I park. Yeah. You know how bad that is? Like it's something very simple you
how
can
do. How dare
do.
you? My mother does that every time we used to go to the
mall. I mean, listen, it doesn't.
Are we in H? Are we in section H?
Every time we go to sushi, my mom is like, where did I park? Yeah. I'm like, I don't know, but it's so freaking cold out here right now. Can you find your car, please? Like,
just very basic stuff. You walk in, and that's what I remember when I was a really young kid. Mm-hmm. My cousin Chris, he was in the Marines, and now he's a firefighter. And we would go into stores, and he would just say, where are all the exits? What could you use for a weapon if something went down? And I was just like, first time he said it, I was like, you're crazy. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, you're not crazy. You're actually really smart.
Actually really smart. And I should really hang out with you more. Yeah. I mean, I remember I was hanging out with my friends and I went into this store or whatever. And I was trying to find like all of the emergency exits, all of the fire extinguishers and the fire alarms, and just checking out like where all of the things are. And they were testing me, and I walked out of there, and I think I missed like 2 of the fire alarms. But these are important things to know, is like, where are the things? What happens if a fire breaks out? Where are your exits? And my mom, she's now a fire inspector, fire marshal for like big events. So she does concerts and stuff. Anytime I go anywhere, she's like, know where the fire exits are. Be aware of what's going on, so that way we just got to always.
You always feel like that shit's not going to happen. And then when it happens, you're just kind of fucked if you're not ready for it.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like if you just think like naturally, at your natural instincts, I remember when I went to work with my mom, the first time I ever went to work with my mom as like a fire inspector, she went to check out this carnival that was happening at this church. And this guy came there to kill his ex-wife, right? So I don't know what kind of rifle he had, but I think it was something small, like a 22 or something, like nothing too big. But comes there to kill his ex-wife, ends up shooting her and 2 other people, right? And is going through this place. My mom's checking out rides with me. I'm like 8 years old. And he sees my mom in her badge and pulls up pulls up on her, pulls the trigger, it jams. She grabs me. She ripped my shirt. I lost the keys. These are the details that I remember because I had the keys in my shirt. Ripped my shirt. I lost the keys. I was wearing I Spy shoes. They had like all these little things on them. And she starts running. Imagine if this is like the field. She starts running right down, right? Well, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, what would my dad do, right? Because my dad, you know, he's the one that taught me how to shoot. He used to be a cop, all this different shit. I'm like, well, he would take the outside, right? So I go around center of like what we're running through, and I go around outside of it towards the stage, and I'm hunkered down low. And I remember my mom going, you know, why did you break away from me, and why'd you go off over there? And I was like, well, I went to go find cover because, you know, I was still moving, but I was trying to find something like to be behind. And so these are things, and so I learned young that these are things that you should think about, you know, and what you're gonna do. But I remember acting like right then and there, and maybe I shouldn't have, you know, departed from my mom, but I felt like I needed to get on the outside away from, you know, direct open area and hide behind something. But and these are things that you learn, you know, over time, and or if things happen, but also when you start thinking about them, like I'm always running through these things in my head of like, what are we going to need to do if this happens? Yeah. At least then you're trying to mentally prepare for these things. But if you're not doing any of that, then what are you going to do?
Well, and like I said, I get made fun of. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but when I go in the stores, and I have daughters, so they're next to me. If they're running around, they get grabbed and they get put right next to me. Like I don't do that because I don't want anybody talking to them. If somebody talks to them, I walk up and say hello. I tell them don't talk to anybody, don't do anything. In the house here, I said so when was that, last year, Mike, that I got a text? And my wife was like,
"Oh yeah."
She called me. And we were watching
down here watching a fight, UFC fight,
and she said, "I think somebody's in the house." So I said, "Okay." So I always had a gun, so I grabbed my gun and I came down the street because we're like a half a block away, and I went around the house, checked all the doors, looked through the windows, and I had my dog. I tried to have my dog go in. He's surprisingly wouldn't go to places he normally wouldn't go. So I was like, go in the basement, go search the basement. Go. He wouldn't do it. So finally I go upstairs and my wife's in the bathroom and she's just standing there. And I go, it's me. She opens the door and I go, she's crying. She goes, I thought I heard a noise. I said, where are the children? And then it dawned on her like, oh my God, I left my kids. Like you locked yourself in a bathroom, left the kids. Like, I think that all of a sudden like snapped like, oh yeah, I really need to think about this
plan.
Yeah. And she won't go shoot with me. She won't do anything. She doesn't like guns. She likes that I have guns, but limited amounts of guns, you'd say, but she will. So that's why I'm going to train my daughter, the 8-year-old. I have those laser shot things, you know, with the SIRT pistols.
Yeah.
So I got her to do that to work on her sights. Good. And then I bought one of those SIG BB guns or the pellet guns.
Yeah.
That matches the 320 I have. So I'm like, it's weighted similar.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's my goal.
Is that how you grew up around firearms and with your dad being a cop? I mean, what really triggered you down this entire path of like, where did it all start with you learning this stuff? Was it when you were a child after that incident?
No. I mean, I had been shooting. I mean, I've saved since I was 8 because to me that seems, I think that's the closest I can remember, but I've been shooting since I can remember. I think my dad says like 6, but I mean, I grew up on a little 22 and it's funny. We used to shoot on my ranch, right? So, you know, we would board our horses at this ranch. They had a bunch of open.
Is this in LA? You've been in LA your entire life?
It's in Simi Valley. So it's in Ventura County. It's about 45 minutes from LA. I'm in the city now, but I grew up in Simi and I just probably 6 or 7 months ago moved to the city. Okay. But yeah, in Simi and I mean, I just grew up like shooting whatever, you know, like rocks. I would shoot a lot of rocks. And then also, you know, we eventually made a steel target, but I grew up shooting 22s when I was like 6, mainly in preparation for when I could be old enough to go hunting, you know, so. And I started on rifles. And then I remember the first time my dad ever let me shoot his Beretta and I hated it because I'm like, how do I hold this thing? Right. And then I shoot it once at a freaking empty milk jug on the ground. Right. And I'm like, I am never shooting a pistol again. I hate it. I'm over it. I'm done. Right. And then I learned how to actually hold a pistol and then I fell in love with it. And then just started
Yeah.
going from there.
I went backwards. I showed her the pistol first because I figured if I could take her to the range and she could, put the rifle up on a stand.
Yeah.
And it's still the same thing. You're still working the sights. You're still understanding.
Right.
But I was like, if I can get her to hold a pistol.
Right.
But then it's like,
if I could have had my dad actually teach me how to shoot a pistol, I would have loved it. But my dad just, he's older now. I think he's probably 67 or maybe even older. But, he didn't grow up, but he was a cop shooting cup and saucer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? And when I started teaching, I looked at my dad's grip and I was like, But then I saw him shoot headshots out to like 30 yards. And I was like, fuck it. He can keep it, right? I was like, I'm not going to touch his grip.
No.
Whoop my ass too for saying something. But so I just needed to learn differently if he would have taught me. But he didn't really this isn't much of a grip. You know what I mean? So like he didn't really know. He was just like, here, hold it. And I was like, I'm not into this at all. And then shotguns are like, fuck that. But then
that's what I learned on. My dad was like, shoot this groundhog, and it blew my shoulder off.
Yeah.
I was just like, he's like, hold it tight. But I was a kid. It rattled my teeth. I was like, what was that? And he's just like, all right, he's not the hunter. Richard, come over here.
Exactly. But it's like nobody. Okay, so when I teach shotguns, here's the thing: is nobody really knows what it's going to feel like to shoot it until they shoot.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So like I tell people, bring that shoulder forward, lean into it, and keep it there. But that keep it there, it doesn't really sit well because as soon as it goes, they're like, whoa. Yeah. And you're like, you just got to stay behind it. If you stay behind it, you're going to be fine. But, you just got to like get it out of the system and like get some teeth knocked out. And then then you understand the shotgun. So it's kind of nice.
Did you with starting out young and getting into firearms and whatnot, like when did you start even pursuing a path down this road of all of the just different, they're just such extraordinarily unique things that usually only one person's doing one of them. And it seems like you've hit a stride. Like, how did you know, or where did that path start when you were just kind of like, this is what I want to do? And then I know when you're on that path, doors do open and then you just kind of know you're there. But what led you to even getting on the road to doing any of the things that you're doing? They're all so unique. It's driving me nuts wondering where it started.
Well, it started learning how, for me, it was when I first got introduced to competition. And I thought it was I was playing Halo and Call of Duty at the time heavy. I was 16 years old. And I was in Halo 5 on Legendary. I was trying to see Master Chief's eyes. I was deep in this shit, right? And so I go out to, my dad's like, hey, you want to go see a shooting competition? I've never heard of that thing before in my life, right? So I go out to see it and I see these guys shredding through these courses and I'm like, this is real life Call of Duty right now. What the hell is this, right? Yeah. And then I hadn't really thought about it. I was 16, so I still had 2 more years of high school. But as soon as I got out of high school and learned more about competition shooting and actually got an opportunity to try it, actually even just the kind of shooting similar to competition where, you're shooting, multiple targets, you're moving a bit, that definitely sparked my interest. And then as far as that led into me wanting to start training in the gym, because when I had originally first started shooting, I was only 18 years old, but I was 100 pounds and had this bright pink hair and I just got freshly out of high school and I never really even thought about training, but once I had a taste of shooting, I was I think I really want to do this. And if I really want to do this, and when I say do it, I mean that I want to be the best that I could be at it. When I decided that, then I was well, I'm gonna have to change everything. I gotta make sure that I start eating right. Cause at the time I had a little bit of an eating disorder. I wasn't really eating at all. And I say 100 pounds, that's crazy. Cause I sit now at 140, I sit pretty heavy there, or I sit at 140 up a little bit and down. But, so for me, it was I got to start really taking the steps towards, becoming the best athlete I can be, period. Because, I don't think that me not really being able to hold up the lightest rifle you could think about, not being able to hold that up isn't going to allow me to be, the best as I can be in this. So I started training in the gym And then, and I was watching one of your earlier shows. I forget which one it was, but, and you guys had talked about, what was it? Like going to gyms or environments where you feel uncomfortable, right? Like everybody's like looking at me and things like that. And I had gone into the gym not having any experience of working out. And I had felt that way, but then I had realized that, you know, we're all here in a weird place trying to just be better. So I kind of got comfortable being uncomfortable and then really started working on it, you know?
It's so important to highlight on that part before I let you continue. That uncomfortableness and that being uncomfortable. And when, I think it was the jiu-jitsu gym we were talking about. 10th
it
Planet.
was.
Yeah, 10th Planet Bethlehem finishers over here. The guys are awesome. But when you're in those uncomfortable situations, I try and tell everybody, and this is what this whole podcast is about, and the things that I like to drive home is like, that's the stuff that changes you. So the stuff that you gripe about every day and you're like, man, you're pissed off that you're not going to do that workout. You're pissed off because you're not doing the push-ups. You're pissed off because you're not getting on the diet. When you're in those things and your stomach is turning and you don't want to be there and you're nervous and you want to walk out that door, that's what makes you change to do all that stuff.
That's where the magic happens. And like that for me was competition for like the first 2 years of it. Is anytime I got anywhere close to the range, like where we're going to compete, I was like nervous as hell. And at the time, now I don't know why, but at the time I felt like, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing here? Blah, blah, blah. But you're right. It's in those places where, you know, there's uncertainty. There's a level of uncomfortability.
The self-doubt creeps in.
Nervous. Yes. Yeah. But that is where the magic happens, because that's where you learn the most, when you can set aside and have your ego in a way, but you're also your pride, and have some humility and say, I'm going to learn something here. I'm still going to be the best that I can be in doing this, but I may not be used to being in this environment, but that's irrelevant. You know, I'm here now and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get it done. And that's what I was talking about. I had posted a video today of me training. And I was talking about cross training, and it's funny because I haven't been training a lot since this whole quarantine thing, mainly because like they're telling me I can't go work out, and I don't like anybody telling me what to do. So I'm like all pissed off in my house. Right.
Yeah.
And finally I'm like, you know what? I'm going crazy, not training. And so, and I like to have a gym. I like to see my form. I like to be in an environment that is like familiar to me. And then, you know, I kind of just had to like swallow that and just say, fuck it. I'm going to go do what I don't normally do, or that's not comfortable for me, but I need to do it because I want to go here. And I even posted that video thinking that the whole thing is shit. I'm like, my form is shit. My shooting is shit. I am shit. This is shit. I suck. But I still post it because that's part of the process. And that's part of that's the important part of it, is even though you don't think you might not think that you're good, or you don't think that you have a place to be here, or that you deserve to be there, or that, you know, all of these things, you still put that aside and you still go do it. You know, you still try to finish off strong. Cause I started that training day like garbage. I was like, what is going on? So that's when I broke out my sandbag and started really like training in the cross training side of it, because I know if I can break my body down a bit and do some actual strength training, then at least then I'm getting that kind of like reprimanding that I feel like I deserve for not being good enough, but then also fix it by not stopping and leaving there, at least feeling like I accomplished something, you know, small victories. Yeah. And we have to have them right now, especially. And that's one thing I love about training in general, but working out is like these small victories is you're like, I'm going to do like, okay, we're going to do 10 push-ups. And then you're like, fuck it, I'm going to do 12, you know? And then you say you do like 5 of those in one workout. You leave there with something, whether it's confidence or, you know, like at least I conquered that part of my life. And that will allow you to kind of continue this momentum to have other small victories, you know, in other parts of your life. And that's kind of the hope, is that we're always continuing in some way to get better.
I listened to one of your other interviews. You were talking about, when you started, you're in competition shooting and you get into the zone, when all you just shuts down and all you hear is a ringing in your ears. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. Cause that's what I always try to tell people. Like when I go to the range and I'm there for hours, I come back and I'm wiped. And then they're like, well, what were you doing? You weren't actively doing anything. I said, no, when I'm there, I can hear the birds chirping. I can hear every little thing. I said, it is so calming. and relaxing. And it's like, how is it relaxing? There's gunshots going off. It's like, you don't understand.
I never understood that till he took me, I got my first gun, and then we went together to the range that Jesse goes to, which I'm privileged because he has like top of the line, like it's the best of the best going, and I'm like, you have these guns, but when
I also play a lot of Call of Duty, so that's why when my daughter plays, I tend to use the guns that I own, and then with the sights I own, and then she'll go, "Do you have this gun?" And I go, "Yeah," and I look at my wife and go, "No, don't have those. Don't know what you're talking about."
But like when we were there and we spent the day there, like there was a big part of my life where I spent it running, and I used to run 8 miles a day, and like that release that got rid of the demons. And then when I shot for the entire day, on the way back, I was so calm and relaxed, and I didn't know that that's what it did. And then I said to him, I'm like, I didn't know this was like a release like that. And he's like, yeah, he's like, it's physical and it's mental. And then when I switched over, my brother got me into archery, which was awesome because then we became super close, and we go and do Total Archery Challenge once a year. And when I started doing archery and spent an hour just shooting, it was the same thing. And I was like, oh, they're like, that's where they're saying like it's like this Zen meditating. And I didn't know any of that until he took me shooting.
Well, and it's kind of like a martial art, in a way, because, and even then some people, if they've not experienced it, they think, well, how is hitting something going to bring you some kind of peace? They're like, you're doing something that's aggressive. You're doing something that, wouldn't generally be seen as a way to get out, if you're not looking at it from that perspective. You see it as kind of this perpetuating of, whatever. But really what it is it's that release of you putting your mind to something, especially with shooting, because you've got so many little things going on. Like you need to have a clean trigger pull. You need to have, a perfect sight picture. If you're moving, you need to make sure you're placing those shots. You need to make sure you have a good grip. Like there's all of these little things that you're thinking about when you're doing this thing that's completely taking you away from anything else that's on your mind.
Yeah.
And, and that's one thing I love about shooting, that, and me and shooting, I mean, to me, we have this like relationship where it's like, it's something that I do, but it gives me that peace. Like when I need to kind of get away from everything going on around me, it's always been there for me. And that's when I feel like I shoot the best, is when I'm like, I need to focus on something that, is a task, that is something that I need to accomplish. There's a clear set of start, stop, this is your goal. But it gives you, and so that at the end of the day, when you're done with that and you've completed that, this sense of accomplishment and this sense of peace, because you actually can be proud about what you've just done. And in martial arts is the same way, is because you're releasing and you're working in your technique and you're thinking about your hips and your body. And at that point, you're using your whole body. So for me, shooting is so mind, body, soul, because then we also go into positive self-talk. Like, are you allowing yourself to be the best that you can be? Are you giving yourself the opportunity to do well? Or are you beating yourself down all the time? You're also teaching yourself how to teach yourself, but how to talk to yourself and how to allow yourself to really experience something, and to take your, the part of you that either doubts or fears or, thinks less than or whatever. And you got to put that aside so that you can accomplish this certain thing. And so it's totally a flow state. And for me, it's that ringing in my ears that I talk about is more so a stripped down version of what shooting is kind of that eliminating everything else, but just listening or just tuning in. Or, if I've heard like with anxiety, when people get anxiety, they need to like kind of stop and look around and know there's a wooden table here. I'm looking at a computer. Here's the light. This is black. This is green. This is, tan or whatever. But it's tuning into where you're at, and it's making you completely present in that moment, So, and that's why I enjoy it. But yeah, it's good for you. I think it's good. And it's fun. You get to go outside, like I don't like shooting indoors. I can't do it,
No. It's a whole different feeling. I just don't like, I don't know. Like I said, when I go outside and you have the active, protection on, and like you hear the birds, you can hear people talking, like a couple of ranges.
You can feel the sun on you, and you can feel the breeze touching you. You can there's bugs like biting you. But like these are things like, and where I shoot at this place called California Tactical Academy. They have a herd of cattle. So I'm hearing cattle, and I see bulls with big balls, and I see babies, you know, and like I get to see really like this environment that is so peaceful, but brings me to a place that is so present and so grounding. You know, it's like being out in the mountains versus like being in this fucking city. I can't take it sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
I've seen the shooting ranges inside, and I've never been interested. Even with archery, like my father and my older brother shot archery all the time. So like me learning as a kid how to shoot, and then now all these years later, I'm in the backyard and my dad walks down, and it's like where we shot when I was a kid. And it's like, you know, the landscape is still the same. And he's telling me, like, he's so interested in the fact that I'm even completely interested in archery now. And he's like, well, you're doing this. And I'm kind of looking at him like, oh, wait, you've done this for half your life. Of course, you know, like he was giving me tips, and like, it was almost like time he wanted to spend with me as a kid, but was now doing it with me as an adult, because I kind of came full circle and got back into the hobby.
And it does come full circle.
Yeah.
And, you know, I found myself even, you know, I started shooting a 22 when I was 8 years old on the ranch. And I now still shoot on the ranch, but now I'm this like shooter, right? And like, and there's, you know, for me, when I go back to the ranch, when I go back home, like I'm still that little girl that like used to get on the back of my horse and like chase a cattle around and like fuck off and like throw, like make like mud pies and like throw them at my sister and like do all this dumb shit. But it did bring it all back full circle. And that feeling of being back where you started, doing what you are doing, but where you started, is such a cerebral like experience. I thought it was so cool. So it's cool that you say that, because I think that was one that I feel like I'm going to remember that feeling forever, you know, of being back to where I started in a different place as a different person, but still who I always have been.
Yeah.
You know?
It's every time I go do it now, he'll come out on the back porch, and he's not one to, you know, venture outside that much, or like, I mean, he does his yard work in the summer, but, for him to come out and sit there and just watch, it's just, sometimes you forget you're your parents' children, especially when you get older. Yeah.
And then also I would assume, because my dad watches me shoot too sometimes, and I love that because, you know, he's also kind of funny too. He likes to tell me what to do, and of course I listen to him. But it's that pride that they have in you as well, is like, this is my baby, and sticking in back to their roots, doing what we both love, you know, something that you guys connected and now connect in a different way together, you know, and it's all through a sport. You know, it's all through an activity. And those are the things that I hope as time goes on that we pass on to our children, like you're doing, Jesse, and onto their children and onto theirs, you know, and it's generational. And that's the hope for the future, because like I can't imagine I don't even know what 100 years from now looks like, but, you know, I hope that my kids teach their
Definitely
kids.
not flying cars. They lied about that shit.
Back to the Future was full of shit.
No flying cars. There's no cool robots. It's all horseshit.
Well, I one time had seen this robot cart looking thing, and it's like, huh?
Oh, no, is it the one that stupid grocery store? The one that, what's that, Marty?
I have no idea, but I was driving down this like tight little street in LA, right? Random. And I'm with Rudy, and we're driving, and we see this like machine on its own, like moving. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And he's like, it's a robot. And I'm like, oh shit, it's the Terminator. Get your
Take it down.
Because that's not like it's happening. Who knows how fast it's happening, but it's happening.
Yeah, our grocery store has a one called Marty, and it's just this thing that goes by
stinks.
itself, and it finds spills on the floor, and then just keeps saying, there's a spill aisle, or there's a spill
here.
It's always in everyone's way. I hate it.
So some lady was there. She goes, "Oh my God, that's so awesome!" And I go, "Yeah, wait until it starts shooting at you." I said, "It's
and so it thinks that it knows more than you do."
Fucking Skynet, you got to take that thing down.
Skynet,
trip it.
Totally. Okay. Well, that's like kind of like in like Star Wars, we have like R2-D2. But he's just like fucking everything up. He's like not helpful at all. Like, this is our defective R2-D2.
Yeah.
and just shoot the fucking thing.
When you take everything you just explained and how far the focus and everything and how you applied that into your shooting and your tactical stuff, did you start branching out into modeling and other stuff? And like, how did you get hooked up into all those other things as far as even getting to the point where, like, how the hell do you even get into being a Call of Duty character? Like, what opened the door to getting into the modeling? And like, I mean, is it just because you're in LA and those are the things? Like, that shit's not around here. Like,
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think that it was, I started, modeling or whatever, and I had kind of always enjoyed it, and I always thought about being an actor as well when I was a kid. But just doing it, and there's a lot of modeling with products and stuff that I've done, so like that, and it kind of became, after doing it for so long and doing it so much, that it became second nature. And then I realized, like, not everybody wants to model or act, and not everybody can model and act.
Yeah.
So it cuts that out, right? So then that makes your chances. And then I think it all came down to, like, as far as Call of Duty came out, it was kind of like I got, reached out to by a friend of Rudy's who was thinking about, doing this campaign and wanted to see if we wanted to work on it. And then, it was kind of just like a who which kind of turned into, what it is naturally. But yeah, so I don't know, I just kind of fell into it and turned out to actually enjoy it, like.
Yeah, what was the process? Because I saw you posted when I was scrolling back, like you posted the photo of all the different characters and all that, and you were like, this was so much fun to be a part of. Like, what was the process of all that? Is like a lot of green screen and like the whole video game processing, or how did they go about it?
Well, as far as the original, photo shoot that we did, we went out to Salt Lake City, Utah, and it was a team of us, and actually some people from the industry too that were super rad to hang out with.
Yeah.
And like Neil and Buff Cookie. And
from Ready Gunner. Yeah.
Yes, and I got to work with Rue, which was fun because I'd never actually gotten to like work with him before.
Yeah.
But we went out there and got all of our shit together and got all of our like gear, and then threw it in a van and drove like 2 hours to a location. We actually shot on the salt flats. And funny story, so I was driving the van, right? Nobody wanted to drive, right? Everybody's like, I'm not driving. Rudy's like, I'll drive, but he's like drinking like some whiskey. I'm like, no, I'm driving, right? 2-hour drive. I'm fucking hauling ass down this like fucking 2-lane highway out to the middle of like wherever the salt flats are. And because I had to drive that first day, I was like, I'm the designated driver for this entire trip. Okay. So for this particular van, I'm like, this is my van and I'm going to drive it. And so on the last day, and I drove that van like a maniac, and we went to another location. So I think we did like 10 hours of drive. I did like 10 hours of driving that van. And we finally get to our last location. We wrap the whole entire shoot. So we throw everybody in the back of my van, right? So I got gear. I got like 5 other people. And nobody had their seatbelts on, except for me. Maybe Rudy did too, because I probably hounded him for it. But we were driving out of there, and I was so excited to get out that I was driving this van like a crazy person. And I hit this whoop. My friend in the back, my friend Jim, who was actually like our main guy, like our main, he was like our leader, right? Wrangling all of these like models and shit. Jim's in the back. I hit this whip. He goes, well, boom, bunks his head on the top of the fucking ceiling. He's got his sunglasses on his head, cuts his head open. Okay. And I'm driving. Like, I didn't even realize some shit happened, because what's happening in the back is not happening in the front. It was much less in the front than it was in the back. And I turn around, he's got all of this blood running down his head. And I thought that they were fucking with me, but they were not fucking with me. And so I was like, I went to go throw him Rudy's schmuck, because what do you use a schmuck for? You use it to clean up shit or wipe your hands or whatever you need some kind of cloth for, right? So I go through his phone, and I go like this to grab it and throw it. And I look at Rudy in the eye, and he goes, don't you dare. And I'm like, okay. And so I take off my shirt and I throw it back there so he can wipe off all of his blood. So I became a professional van driver that weekend. But yeah, so I mean, we just went out and we shot and we had fun. And the cool thing was they're like, kind of make up a character in your mind of whatever. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna be me, right? Her name's Victoria, which is my middle name, and I'm just gonna, be me. And they're like, stay in character, because we're all bullshitting. And at the time I was smoking like a chimney, talking shit, cussing like sailors. They're like, stay in character. And I looked at them like, I am in character. You know, what are you talking about? I'm like, if we were out in the field, we'd be fucking around if we're not working. But it was so much fun, and they really just kind of allowed us to, you know, do our thing. And I had been modeling, you know, for like 3 or 4 years at that point, especially with firearms. So I was like, fuck it, let's go, you know? And then it kind of, you know, turned into, you know, them being interested in my face. And then I was like, take my face, put it on a girl. And so, yeah.
It's awesome. They're actually taking a lot of like professional shooters and stuff and adding them into the game and actual military people. And it's getting, I mean, they started Alexandra, I think, was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all of a sudden now they have Youres with two lamb or lam, however you pronounce it. But your character isn't out yet, apparently.
Well, I'm not really.
It is, but it's not. So,
yeah.
Like, you're on the screen. So I kept showing my daughter. I was like, yeah, that's her. And she's like, well, just buy her. And I go, you can't. Like, there's a big, like, you can't. And she's like, well, just find her. And I go, yeah, I'll just call her and I'll tell her to unlock it. Like, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it right here. The password's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, she said, she's like, as soon as you're able to do that and she's unlocked, she's like, I'm using that character. And I said, go ahead. I don't care. Because normally she's always a guy. And she's like, I hate being a guy on this game. Sorry.
See, I played World of Warcraft for like, I don't know how long I played, but this one summer, like, I shut the blinds. I didn't leave the office. I pulled the fucking couch up to the computer and I'm sitting there playing Warcraft like this. And I always wanted to play as a dude because they never suspected that you would be a chick until you whoop their ass and you're like, haha, fuck you. Yeah. And they get all pissed off. And then it's funny because it's kind of like that in shooting now. Not that I do that, but some people are like, oh, well, she's a chick. Like, she can't do this. And I'm like, let me shave my head and show you.
No, seriously, I tell people all the time, girls are better shooters than men. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's more patience or whatever, but everybody I've taken out to shoot, you know, females, without even doing it, like, hey, I've never shot before. And they're just nailing everything. And they're like, wow, this is easy. And I was like, it's not easy. I don't know what it is, but I've always found girls are always better shooters.
And I wonder too, because for me being an instructor, I think about, and I don't really think that, I mean, it's so black and white. It's like you're either like, you know, it's like one or the other, right? But really, I think it might be this attentiveness to details that maybe women are a little bit more in tune to. And also the fact when they get onto the range, they're generally like, you know, they come into it very, you know, reserved and they're like, okay, I'm going to learn everything I need to learn and this, that, the other. And they're not very like, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to shred this and blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm all about it.
Yeah, guys like, I shoot everything. Don't worry.
Oh, let's go. And I'm with it. You know, I'll get down real quick. But like with women, sometimes there's this tendency to want to, and, you know, and sometimes I don't want to say it's fear, but it's just not knowing. And they could be like, oh, well, there's a lot of recoil, you know, but that comes down to really learning how to hold it and how to compensate for less grip strength. You know, these are things that if you have a good instructor that these can be, you know, never been an issue. Mm-hmm. But I think there is that kind of, you know, not even wariness, but this kind of like, you know, cautious way that they approach, you know, doing it versus some guys are like, they're like, we're out here with our bros. We got like 5,000 rounds of ammo. You know, we got some shit down range to shoot. Like, let's go, you know? And
I play Call of Duty. Shit. I shoot 50s on Call of Duty like nothing.
I do this in my sleep. But you know what? I just got this rifle from Blackwater Firearms, and they have this rifle that's got the trigger is in the grip. Have you seen that?
No, I saw the rifle though. I looked.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm like, you know, I was thinking about it because I haven't actually shot it yet. And I can't wait to shoot it. And I know once I shoot it, I'm going to be like, I'll do whatever it takes to fucking master this thing. Like, I don't care because I just want to do it. But I was thinking, I'm like, this is more like playing a video game than it is like shooting, right? Even though this isn't really a natural movement, I don't know how much this is either. Yeah. But it's so different. But this to me feels like a video game, you know?
That's
so I might
crazy.
Translate, you know, a little bit. Who knows?
With where you're at now, and you know, the Call of Duty character and all that, I noticed. Are you working projects with that knife company, or what is the whole thing with that? Because I saw that come on, and I was like, wow, this is such a cool angle that she's going after too. Are you like a spokesperson for them, or is that something that you created, or what's the story behind that?
So me and Battle Horse Knives are kind of I would like to say that we're like partners, but we're not actually partners. But I've teamed up with them, and mainly as an ambassadorship, but also we started my own like brand of knives through them. And I love them, man. They're all handmade here in the USA. You know, they're based out of Ohio, Christian-owned company by a beautiful woman named Alicia and her dad. Her dad started it, and all handmade knives, all O1 tool steel. And, you know, they're, to me, because I love, like, blades, right? I like all weapons, really. But when I was thinking about knives and, like, what I wanted to make, I wanted something that, not only that I use, but something that, to me, brings me back to, like, why I use them. Which, the only reason why I ever carried a knife was because I needed it for, you know, outdoorsman stuff, like hunting, you know, skinning, cooking, whatever you need it for. I wanted a knife that was going to be, if I was going to work with a knife company, I wanted it to embody my experiences with knives and using them for my, you know, for me with the outdoors. Because I'm not like a knife fighter or anything like that yet, but you know, I like,
I love that.
You know, yeah. But
Listen,
you know,
because of the stupid quarantine, I did schedule to take a class. My brother knows a guy that does it. Spartan Mode. They're out of Idaho.
Cool.
And the guy's military guy goes and trains everybody. And I signed up for it. I paid for it. I was stoked about it. And then this quarantine thing, and he messaged me. He was like, "Hey man, sorry, but I am coming there. So what you do, like, I will hit you up." And I was like, I watch his videos and I'm like, man, that would be cool as shit to have a knife fight. I envision in my head, I'm a fucking knife fighter.
Yeah.
I'm not. But
you can do it. You can do anything.
I'm going to try. I'll try the shit out of it. But it's cool as hell.
Well, that's all you need is that mindset.
Yeah, that's cool as hell.
And you can literally learn anything. And that's probably why I do so much random things like martial arts or, you know, training or whatever I do, is because, like, if you can get somebody to teach you, then you can learn. And there's a teacher for everything. You know what I mean? And so you could do it. You know, I could do it. I'll probably get cut a couple of times because knowing me, I'm just ridiculous. But once I get the hang of it. But yeah, so with Battle Horse, they really, you know, embodied everything that I wanted. And I love the work that they were doing, the quality of it. And so we've been working together, and we, you know, put out my own line of knives, but I'm also not redesigning, but designing from the ground up a few of my own, like, proprietary ones. And I want some, like, stylish stuff, but still super usable, right? Like, I still am going to take it with me hunting, but I want it to, like, have this little, like, kind of dark feeling, like almost like, you know, like there's a black, like I want to see some black aesthetics and things like that. But that's the fun part of it, is we just get to kind of design it, and they're great to work with. So with Battle Horse, it's like a partnership, but also I put out my own line of knives with them, and they're great. So we're working together.
Who else are you working with? Because I saw in your bio, there's the ammunition company.
Blackwater.
Yeah, you're working with them as well?
Yeah, I'm working with Blackwater, and I've been friends with them for quite a while. I met Caleb from Blackwater probably, I would say 2 years ago, and we gelled like two peas in a pod, you know, and he's so rad, like dancer, like a ballerina guy, right? Dancer, designer, all this cool shit, working with, you know, to me, like one of the most badass companies that I've seen as far as, you know, since I've been shooting, you know, names and companies and vibes. So I'm working with them, and you know, they make these, I wonder if I know I have one somewhere, but I would have to get it. But they make these 2-part casings that are, they're NSA or they're NSA 3 or something like that casings, but they're like half as light as a normal casing of brass. And the quality and consistency of all of their products, you know, and so when they asked me if, you know, I would be interested in working with them, I, you know, was absolutely all for it, because like I like their aesthetic. I like everything because I feel like they check all of their boxes. There's quality, there's consistency in their products. You know, it's all high caliber stuff. And for me, anybody that I'm working with, and even with myself, I want it to be the best. I want to be the best.
I think it's
important.
They make those monolithic rounds.
Yes, they do.
That's awesome. So yeah, I saw, and I'm on a waiting list because apparently everybody wants to buy ammo. So I've shot the training rounds from them, which is just basic ammo, but I want to get the monolithic shit because you can go lighter and it still has the same kinetic energy because it's one solid piece of brass, and it's cool shit. They have cool stuff in there. So yeah, we're waiting, but everybody's out. Like I can get ammo, and that's why I haven't been out shooting that much, because I have ammo, but I know if I'm going to go out, I'm going to shoot hundreds of rounds. So I want to make sure I have more coming in the mail.
Right.
In fact, I've been waiting for months.
Right.
It's just stupid.
I can't wait till you take me with you.
Yeah, well, and that's why with my training, like, because, you know, a lot of people, like when I had started, a lot of people were like, you know, well, it's easy for you to be this good because you have all of these things. And I was like, but that's not the case, because the first, you know, probably 3 years of my shootings, you know, my shooting was really like 80% dry fire and like 20%. I mean, I didn't have an ammo sponsor for the first 2 years, you know, and I didn't want to just burn up ammo that, you know, wasn't mine or anything like that. And so a lot of it came from dry fire, and I dry fired every single day. Yeah. And so for me, like what I tell anybody that is like, hey, how do I improve? I'm like, just dry fire. If you dry fire for 30 minutes a day, right? It's not even that much. And you're probably so like fucking hell bent on being good that you're probably doing it for more than 30 minutes. But you can sit down and do your dry fire for 30 minutes a day, and you do that for a week, right? That's at least like what, 21 hours, right? 24, something like that. I hate math. But that's like 24 hours of you training. Add in more, or not 24 hours. It's like,
I was hoping Jesse would save us, but he also is terrible at math.
But it's an hour, you know. But think about how much time. And then when you finally, you know, hit that, after you train for a few days, because also where's the benefit of, if you don't dry fire at all, if you're not doing any homework, and you go out to take your test, which is, you know, in theory, you're shooting your ammo, right? And you're training, but you haven't put in any work behind the scenes for it. You're not going to get nearly as far just doing live fire training as you would just straight up dry firing and live fire like once every 2 weeks.
Well, no, I have to qualify for the state, and because I'm also a constable, so I do that. So, but when you do that, there's people that show up, and it blows my mind that they don't fire at all the whole year. Right. It's usually older people, and they show up, and they're just like, you can hear the rounds hitting the fucking frame, and I'm like, dude, like, come on, man. Like, and then the guy came up, and I shot a 99%, and they walked up, and the guy goes, seriously, dude, I was off by like this much. And he goes, you fucking asshole. Like, you almost had it perfect. So the guy comes up and he goes, how'd you shoot that well? I said, I go shooting every fucking weekend. Like, I literally go shooting. I have laser shit in my house.
Yes.
And that's why I train, because the best thing is, and I found, and my friend told me a while ago, because I was really fighting getting the red dot on top of a pistol. I really didn't want to do it, because I'm like, I just don't. But he said, he's like, trust me, if you get it, you'll realize how much you're fucking up. And it'll keep you honest, because you'll see how much that fucking red dot's moving. And you're like, wow, I'm all over the fucking place. That was the best thing I ever did, is get one of those and shoot. And it really keeps you steady now, the more you practice with it.
Right. But here you have somebody, here I have somebody that I'm looking and listening to that is hungry to be better, that doesn't stop training, that is thinking about training, that has laser stuff in their house, you know, that is taking these steps to earn that 99%. Because somebody had said to me, I had a match once, a respecter that I really, or a shooter that I really respect, because I had taken home a win. I think it was divisional, or it might have been overall for the ladies or something like that. But, you know, and I felt like I didn't do very well, right? I was like, dude, that was a shit match. Like, yeah, I took home this win, but I'm like, I don't fucking deserve this. I didn't do what I needed to do for this. I just showed up and shot, right? And at the time I was so busy, I never live fire trained. And he said to me, he said, there are no free lunches in this game. He's like, if you show up, everybody shows up with what they got and the same course of fire to shoot. So if you can perform accordingly and you take home that win, you earn that. But, and, you know, and sometimes when you always want to be better than you are, you're never really going to be content with where you're at. But like, just like with your like, fuck, I was that close to a fucking 100%, right? You're like, I always want more. And that's that tick that you have to be the best that you can be. But even with that intention behind it of thinking about these things beforehand, even a thought is intention, there's intention behind it to, you know, help fuel, you know, greater things. And so if you're thinking like that, if you're doing and acting accordingly on that, then that's where, you know, that progress comes from. So like with people right now, you know, if we can't get out of our house, or if there's no like ranges or anything, but if they're dry firing, they're still training way more than if they weren't. And then they were going, you know, to shoot. And so I think that there's, you know, great value in that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's good.
there was so much. I'll start wrapping up because I don't want to hold you too long. But there was so much.
Totally cool too.
There was so much in that last statement that you said that just hit so home, because everybody always questions me, or doesn't question me, but like they want to pat me on the back for how far the show has come. And in my head, we're halfway there. So it's like, it's hard to me to explain to my friends when they're like, oh, you're doing so good, you're doing so awesome. And in my head, like, it's still not good enough, which drives me to be better. So it's like, you know, sometimes my friends are like, man, you're like trying to tackle this impossible goal. And I'm like, even if I'm putting it at 100 yards and I make it to 50, I would have only been going to 25. So like, when I just completely related with what you said about, it's just the itch. It's never enough for me. It's never, you know, it's always, we got to do more. We got to get bigger. We got to interview, you know, the fact that you even sat down to do this interview with us from where we started 4 years ago, just bringing on people we knew that were tattoo artists or bands, and it was local people, that this has grown to now we're doing this with you, and you checked our show out and liked it, is like, we're in the right direction. But if I would have settled for what we were doing 4 years ago and would have been like, yeah, man, this is us. This is the podcast. We did it.
Right.
We wouldn't be the best. We wouldn't ever be. And there's so much more to go. And I just, I really related with that. And like I said before, these are the moments that I like to pull out of guests to push people who want to try and do something, or they're struggling with something, or they're just trying to be a better version of themselves. It's not how it looks. It's not how it feels. It's how it doesn't feel, and it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't look. Yeah.
And it sucks, you know, and I talked about that on my most recent training videos. I'm like, you know, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
Oh my God, yes.
You know, it's cleaning your room. It's going to get fucking messy, but at least you're cleaning it. And, you know, I think the thing is it goes back to small goals. You know, are we setting small goals? Are we accomplishing them? Do we even have, you know, the motivation to even think about setting these goals? And are we going to accept, you know, falling short? What are you willing to accept, and where does it come from? You know, and if there's this kind of looming like, well, I'm not good enough or anything like that, but you're setting these small goals and you're accomplishing them, that feeling comes up whether you think that it's possible or not. And I think it comes down to people. And that's what we were talking about yesterday, was with this time of us having to kind of sit down and be within ourselves and within our spaces, and to look inward, is, you know, asking yourselves during this time, it's like, well, what do I want? You know, what are my goals? And the thing about it is, there is no goal that is too big. Never. You know, I'm like a little girl from Simi Valley, California, right? Grew up on a horse ranch, like, and really, like, I was just a kid, you know, I'm not really much of anything, but my want to think about wanting to be the best at this, whatever that meant at the time, I had no idea. I still don't. But having at least that thought, and then doing what I could to get closer to it, eventually led me to where I'm at now. And I still feel like I'm a shitty shooter. And I still feel like I have so much more to go, and I need to. And that's what kind of keeps me going. But I feel like people will accept, you know, whatever circumstances that they're in based on what they think and value of themselves, when it's just not the case. You know, and if they can remember, if they can have somebody in their life say, you know, you can do anything. We're human beings. We're the most able, you know, you can do anything. All you have to do is actually catch that thought and start taking steps towards it. And then you're going to go somewhere with it. And it might change, you know, you might be like, well, I'm going to do this. And then halfway along the way, you're like, wait a second, this opportunity came up and now I'm going that way. And that was something that I heard in the other podcast that I was listening of yours, was that, you know, this guy went to school to be something. And then his friend wasn't even going to school for what he was going to school for, but he ended up doing just like you with the music studio, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, but, you know, it's you're taking a path, and whether it leads you off and you go in a different direction, it's taking you there, you know, but you have to choose to walk down that path. If you're not even going to look at that path, if you know that it's sitting there, but you're in such denial of it that you're not even going to fucking look at it, there's no way that you could even attempt to walk in that direction. Yeah. But if you can at least for the second strip away all of this doubt and say, well, if I could do anything, what would I do? And then you catch that thought, and then you're like, okay, well, that's what I want to do. So this is the step that I'm going to take towards it. That's
I credit a lot to that. I'm stubborn. So pretty much if I start something, like I try to instill that in my daughter too. I say all the time, you can't quit. Like whatever you do, I don't care how bad you are, you're going to finish it. If you don't want it, like she was a cheerleader, she hated it. And the first time, like I grew up playing sports. So the first time we went to one of her cheering things, all the cheerleaders are all cheering and she's sitting there looking off and I was like, oh no, like my daughter's the girl that's like in La La Land that isn't paying attention. And I was like, oh crap. So I asked her, I go, are you into this? And she goes, no, it's completely boring. I was like, well, you got to finish it now. Like, I'm sorry, but if you don't finish it, it's like cheating. You have to finish it. I don't care how brutal it is. Just finish it, close that fucking chapter and figure out where you go from there. Yeah.
And in every way of your life, like I was talking to somebody when I was like doing a meeting for this thing and I told him, I said, I can't even make the bed half-assed. Like I can't do it. Like I can't throw the fucking comforter over the bed and have it be a mess underneath. Like I need it to be done properly. And then I realized that I'm like that in every aspect of my life. And that's probably why, everything is the way that it is. But it's because I can't half-ass short stroke anything. And as long as I can, if I do my best, right, and I do it properly and I do it well and I do it right and I get it done, then at least I can move on. But I think it's that tick that we talk about that really makes and sets the stage for who we are and what we're going to be at the end of the day. And that's a great thing to be teaching your daughter. If not, sometimes she's going to be like, fuck, I can't even make this fucking bet, but
know, it's a lot. Yeah, she, I'll just say she got her temper from her mother, not from me at all. Yeah. No, really, no, I have a bad temper. So when she gets really pissy and she screams and yells, my wife just laughs and I'm like, damn it. My mom always said, like, you'll get paid back for screaming and yelling. Yeah. But she does it, so she'll have her little scream and yell thing and then she calms down and I can bring her down and then she'll sit. And then I'm like, okay, now we'll try this again. And then we're going to keep doing it again. And then one day she's like, just leave me alone. I don't want to keep doing this. And I go, no, we're just going to keep doing it. I suck right now. But you'll appreciate it later on in life when you realize what I'm trying to tell you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And that's why I even enjoy now being in this in between where, I could have kids now if I wanted to, but there's also a part that I am still somebody's daughter, but you see, these lessons that our parents have taught us and whether at the time we thought it was good or not, we probably didn't because what did we know? But I look back now and I'm like, I'm so grateful that my parents were this way. I'm so grateful that my dad, was a bit hard on me because, if he wasn't, where would I be? You know what I mean? And then that's something that I will teach to my kids. Right now I'm trying to teach it to my dog, but he is like a total, like I'm getting paid back with this dog. Like, and I'm like, I'm not even my kids yet. And I'm not even having kids yet. And this dog is paying me back. But I like, and then it also teaches you about, about what it was like to learn before. And what it means to be a good teacher, and a good role model. And to have that consistency and also that structure, I think is so important, especially for kids.
Well, it's shitty to say too, but that dog whisperer guy, we used to watch a show.
Mr. Milan?
But the only thing I can take from him, two things. I did teach my dog to walk on a treadmill, which is super easy to do. It just makes you feel so lazy because your dog's walking and you're just but it was during the winter and it would suck. So I was like, here, and he took to it right away. But the second thing is he stresses a lot of when you're giving the dog orders, they can sense like where you're coming from and the intent in your voice and the inflection in your voice. And that does go a long way. Because once you start thinking about like, how am I, like if you say something and someone takes it the wrong way, like, well, how did I really come off when I said that? And that's the only thing I can take from that. Everything else is crazy nonsense when he's talking to him and shit. I don't listen to any of that stuff. But the main thing about, how you're saying things, how you're approaching things. If you're nervous, the dog's nervous. Right. You know what I mean? And
it's all about intention. And I think intention is huge. It's part of the context of anything in life. It's like, where is it coming from and where do you want it to go? And if that's not a clear thing, well, that's where these kind of misconstrued misunderstandings come through. But if you have a clear understanding of what your intention is with anything, and the hope is that your intention is always going to be good, then at least, moving forward that you are doing everything based off the intention to be good. And you have to also understand that people are their own people, right? Yeah. And they have the right to their own, their own will and their own decisions. But when it comes down to you and that you're in the right space and that your intention is good, then you've done everything that you can do. And that is sense, but it's also, that's rewarding too, to know that your heart's in the right place when you're doing anything. You know what I mean? It's good. But I've heard so many people talk about Cesar Millan since I got this dog. I'm like,
his shows. I'm telling you, I had.
What's the name of the show? The Dog Whisperer?
Dog Whisperer.
Dog Whisperer.
Is that the guy who like dresses up like a steampunk character and like fights cats?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
That must be another show I'm into. Like, is he the one who has like the crazy sideburns and
No.
Oh, that's another show.
The reason I started watching
it's real. I'll send you guys links. That's a real goddamn show.
Are you thinking about Joe from the Tiger King?
No, but I do love him.
Did you see that?
Oh my god, yeah. That shit was insane.
I know. And I remember like when Rudy had seen it on the show, I had seen on the Netflix, I had seen like a preview of it, and I'm like, I don't want to watch that shit.
The preview is completely not how the show is.
No. And it's so complex, like you know what I mean? And it's and I thought it was so funny how it became this like gigantic, thing as well. But I remember seeing it and I was like, I'm not gonna, and then you know what? I like his music.
Oh, I love it.
You know?
But you have to understand, he didn't sing any of it.
Yeah.
That's not his voice.
No, he didn't write or sing any of it. They basically just like wrote all this music and they thought he was just going to use it. They didn't know he was going to make like a video for each and put out an album. He just asked for some music and then he lip synced the whole thing.
If you search it out, you put real singer, the guy does an interview. He's pissed. He's like, listen, this guy approached me, said he was going to pay me a couple grand to play and sing. And he was going to use it for the intro to his online show. And all of a sudden, this guy did his own video.
Oh my gosh!
He said, and he never fucking paid me. So
oh my gosh!
Oh yes, total Milli Vanilli. He didn't do any of that.
Scandalous, but of course it is. Like these are the kinds of people that like, of course it is.
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect anything more. Fuck it.
Yeah, like his first album, he had like 36 songs and 12 videos. Like, it was just ludicrous. As soon as I saw it, I remember watching, I'm into a lot of different podcasts, and the one guy, Sam Roberts, does like his own lonely show. And he always like breaks down stuff. So he started breaking the Tiger King down. He goes, I'm just going to stop here. We're going to touch on this, and then we can't stay here because there's too much crazy. And he's like, he's definitely not singing that, and that's definitely not him. And then I was like, no, that isn't him. I'm like, that isn't his voice. And then he's like, now back to the murder.
Have you ever heard, speaking of podcasts, have you ever heard of Dan Carlin?
Yeah. He does like that hardcore history or whatever.
History. Yeah. So rad. And in his voice, like I remember when I heard it.
It's mesmerizing. And the way he tells stories is just, it really keeps you attracted to it. Like he's really good. Yeah.
And he talks like he's reading, but he's not reading anything. He's just talking. And he's just I just think he's so well spoken. I think and it's so interesting too, especially like for me, like going back and kind of hearing about these things and now being able to choose what I hear about, right? Because when you're a kid, you're like, I don't want to hear about history. But at the time, like I don't remember it ever being really what I'm learning. I was like, I mean, if at the time, I watched this Vietnam documentary on Netflix. If they had taught it like this, as they teach it in these documentaries in school, or if they would have just played a documentary in school, I would have caught onto it like a fish and like a bait on hook, but that just wasn't the case. So now as I'm going back and like learning these things, it's so interesting because then also you can kind of follow a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And learn more about, certain specialties of things. And plus, the movie binging right now has been radical, and watching so many cool things.
It's crazy looking back on it and realizing that I've learned more from watching documentaries and mostly listening to podcasts than if you add up all of my high school. I learned more from podcasts. I mean, I was a terrible kid in high school and was just never in class and whatnot. I'm sure that had something to do with it. But also, I just feel like I needed to be stimulated to learn, and even listening, which is headphones in, I'm more attentive, or watching a podcast, which is why I wanted to go to all video. I just thought it was more appealing. You just feel like you're in the room. But I definitely learned more from that style of learning than I did listening to some hungover social studies teacher just read from a book.
Right. And then we talk about, everybody that is speaking about these things willingly, right? They're speaking about them because they're passionate about it, right? Like, why else would you talk about something that you really don't care about?
Mm-hmm.
But then you talk of, these teachers, and I'm not talking about all of them, I'm just talking about, in my experience, I suppose, that if they don't have that passion to teach, then the kids aren't going to have that passion to learn, and as we get older and we choose to learn about these specialty things, and it becomes part of our passion, and we listen to somebody like Dan Carlin, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's his passion, and I'm feeding off of his, his love for it, and it becomes this kind of like crescendo of, interest in the subject. And we talk, I talk about passion a lot for everything that we do, because if you're not passionate about it, why are you doing it? Why are you doing anything? And you don't have to.
I think it's like the teachers too. I think the books they teach the same shit.
And they're old.
For 5 or 6 years, and then the updated version, they change nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I mean, I had a couple good teachers. I had that one teacher that he did that. It was a Civil War movie with who the hell was I forget the main character. It's a big Civil War movie they did. Anyway, he got picked because he does like Civil War reenactments. So when he taught history,
the Mel Gibson movie.
No, before that. But because he was one of these reenactors, like, he wanted it to be right. So he never opened up the book one time. He was like, this is what happened.
Yeah.
And it was so much better and refreshing having someone being passionate about it than just going, hey, read chapter 6. This is how World War I turned out. It's
right.
Like, that's days worth of stuff you have to learn.
Right.
And they narrow it down to 2 paragraphs.
Right. And, and thinking about, the subject of passion, it being lost, how it can at times become a little bit dangerous, because like I have seen this show on Netflix, which is another like docuseries called The Innocent Files. Have you heard of it?
I just started watching it.
Okay. And one thing, and me and Rudy, we sit and we watch and we talk about these things. And I'm like, the fact of the matter is, you've got these public defenders that have no passion towards, actually properly representing somebody and what they're doing. And then you're seeing all of these innocent people, being incarcerated for crimes that they didn't do. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that, that people that have done bad things don't deserve to be in jail. But I'm just saying that, when you have somebody that is so dispassionate about what they're doing, that they don't care what happens to another person in their life, it becomes kind of dangerous.
Well, it's like that now, because like I said, I deal with how I deal with work. So I always tell people, when they come into the office, they say, do you think I need an attorney? The answer is yes. All the time, get an attorney, because public defenders, obviously they're free, but you get what you pay for. And I said, you need to understand that public defenders are not there to fucking matlock the case and go, aha, the county's wrong. They're there to make sure you know legally what the other people are saying, so that if they say something, you can lean over and go, what the fuck does that mean? But they're not there to win a case.
What a terrible way to look at that.
But that's how
but it's real. I never even thought of that's why they are there. What did they say? And then they just have to
they tell them, and that's it. So when they go, what kind of deal do I get? And every time they're just like, I don't know. So they lean over to the DA and go, what kind of deal would you get? Well, if it's an attorney, the attorney is going to call the DA. The attorney is going to call the arresting officer and say, listen, what are we trying to do? What do you have here? Let's talk. This is the guy's first time arrest. Let's do. They didn't have that. So that show, which I started watching it too, those are really poor people that couldn't afford attorneys. And because it was deep down south, they just steamrolled them. Like, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. The DA only cared about winning and their win-loss percentage. And that was it. That was like, that's how they got money. That's basically how they got money.
Yeah. And that's where I think that where that kind of danger comes from is like, if there's not that need to want to do what you're doing perfectly, whether it's, and that doesn't mean that you have to work a job that, you love, we all have to do things that we don't love at times, but it's also about cutting out time to, balance that, if you're working a 9 to 5 and you're like, fuck this, but you have things in bills and in the family to provide for, that's okay. But are you taking the steps after the fact to make sure that you're healthy, to make sure that you're going to be okay? And that, that you're living your life and actually living it and not just kind of like counting the days as they go by. And especially now where people are kind of locked in and they're like, well, fuck, every day is blending together. We'll do something at least. And one of the, like every day that at least brings you some kind of sense of fulfillment. So that way you at least are feeling alive in some way.
Well, I know too, like I said, being around prison guards, and I can tell by the conversations with them how long they've worked there.
Mhm.
So if they're there like 5 years or less, they're at the work, all their stuff is all ironed, they're ready to go. It's always, hey, how are you? They're all bubbly. After 5 years, they're just monotone. They don't care. This job sucks. It's just miserable. And I'm like, then get a different job. Like
Yeah.
you being a computer screen basically is what your personality is. Showing up and sitting there, that's not doing anybody any good. You know what I mean?
It's not living. It's not healthy, and I feel like if we're not taking steps to be healthy mentally or physically or spiritually, then we're becoming dormant. And what happens when something is dormant for too long is it starts I feel like decaying. It starts falling away.
Yeah, withering away. Yep.
Yeah. And it's we're only alive for so long, and it really all depends on what you believe in. But, we only have this short amount of time here in life. How are you choosing to spend it? Are you going to choose it spending, or are you going to choose spending it with your loved ones, doing something that you love, enjoying, even if it's not with people, doing something that you really just enjoy, or are you just going to count the days down and then wish you had that time back? It's my manager always tells me, he says, live every day as if though tomorrow's not going to come, and that's mainly because he's like, get your fucking ass up and let's get to work. And I'm like, okay, let's go, but when he says that to me, I'm like, you're right, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And if it's not guaranteed and you only had today, what are you going to choose spending it on? And that's really that liveliness. That's where it kind of comes in, and you can kind of get that life and health back into your life.
Think about how many people that this whole pandemic thing ruined. People were, constantly, I get up, I go to work, I do this. And now they're like, you can't go to work.
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit when I was
Their
talking to you.
minds.
There's definitely some people that
Just lost
are
it.
just so used to just punch in, punch out routine, come home, sit on the couch, go to work, do this, do that. It's just every day. It's like a Flintstones episode. And then now to have it just stopped like that, I feel like there's, I can see it in some of my friends where I can tell they really haven't dealt with some shit in life, and they're just kind of like, well, this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening, and I'm just in the back being like, when's this shit gonna be over? like you know what I mean? There's definitely people who aren't used to walking outside of the norm and not having their life shook up like that.
Well, and that comes back to being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is something that none of us really have any say in anything that's going on. It's kind of out of our hands. So when you're kind of propelled into this uncomfortable, state, you got to ask yourself, well, what are you going to do about it? Because I was depressed for 3 weeks, and I'm on and off with my depression, my anxiety, but I mean, truly, the small goals that I meet every day, I'm not meeting anymore. Now I'm to my couch. I'm I'm not feeling well. I'm sad. I'm down. And it was this heavy blanket, and I could catch my thoughts saying just thinking all this negative shit. And then finally I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit here and be upset and be pissed off and be uncomfortable? Am I just going to get my ass out there and do what I don't feel like doing, but do it because I know I have to do it, and make that step towards, trying to be better than I was before? But that's that level of uncomfortability that, we're all kind of being forced into right now.
Yeah.
And we need to kind of,
it's difficult now too, because your worldly distractions of that you would kind of feed that feeling too, where it's just like, oh, well, I'm gonna go here, or I'm gonna go grab some food, or I'm gonna go through the drive-through, and it's like when all that shit's taken away and you're just left with that thought and pacing back and forth. It's funny you even said that, because earlier in the week, my situation with everything has completely been turned upside down. My income has changed, and it's like the side hustles I've been doing stopped. So it's like, I had, like what you said, it's like in the first couple of weeks I was just mentally fucked. And then now it took about a month for me to figure out how to run this business and keep going inside the loopholes that have been created to keep going. But I remember being down here and being like, oh, I think I want to go lay down. And then this other voice comes up and is like, you're going to go lay down? You're going to go lay down. You're going to go to sleep right now, and then you're going to wake up, and then you're going to be pissed at yourself because you wasted 5 fucking hours. You're going to sit your ass down. You're going to start booking fucking guests. You're going to start making fucking phone calls. You're going to talk to the people that wanted to sponsor. You're going to do all the shit that you don't want to fucking do. You're not putting it off till tomorrow. And then I actually I was like, you know what? Like, as fucked up as everything is, I'm like, you're going to come out of this changed, and it's going to be for the better, because there's some people who shouldn't be left alone with themselves. But then I kind of look at, what can you get out of this with being left alone? Like, my exercise is through the roof, because I'm like a dog. Like, if you don't take me for a walk, I'm just going to fuck all your shit up. So like, it's like, and now it's like, I get up and I'm like, you got to go on a hike. All right. The hike's not enough. All right. We need to start doing push-ups, sit-ups. What can you do down here in the studio? And you're not, I'm not, but it's funny because now I'm doing this shit, but I used to go over to Planet Fitness and be like, oh, I'll just run for 20 minutes and then I'm good here. Where now it's like, you have to get rid of that shit. You have to face yourself. And I feel like there's some people who aren't prepared, or I just feel like I'm going to be a totally different person when this heads back to normal, for the better. It's all the stuff I've been talking about wanting to do for years.
Yeah. When it forces you to be creative.
Yeah.
And I needed that, because for months I was kind of like just feeling like I wasn't very creative, until finally it was like, no, you're going to need to get creative. And I'm grateful for, that wake up call of like, hey, you need to get creative now. And now's the time. And the funny thing is it took all of this for me to actually get my shit together and walk out the door and go shoot, and it's like, and that's the benefit from it. And it's really just about perspective, is how are you going to see. And it's really about resilience and tenacity. It's not about what happened. It's who you became because of it.
Yeah.
And it's not about, you need to always put your best foot forward and decide, well, how am I going to grow for the better because of this? How is that going to propel me? And also, how is it going to better me for those around me? Like, how is it going to make me now become more involved in my community, and now become more involved in, the health and well-being of, my family and my friends in the world, really. And, how am I going to give back and contribute to something greater than myself, and it starts with yourself, but then there's this trickle effect where it starts affecting, those around you. Like, you're going crazy. You said, like, you're like a dog, where if you don't get your exercise, you fuck shit up, right? Well, I know my dog, when my dog fucks shit up, it doesn't just fuck with me. It fucks with Rudy. It fucks with our sleep. It fucks with the cats. It fucks with everything. And so you're seeing this trickling of the environment around you. And you got to ask yourself, how are you going to positively impact the environment around you, even though the reason why may not be so positive? Is how are you going to come out of this? And these are the things that I think we need to be asking ourselves during this time, is in this reflection. And also when we're reflecting, not being so self-critical, and not saying, oh, you're a shit person for being down. Everybody has an excuse right now of why they should be depressed, or why they should be anxious, or why they should be scared. But it's not about the excuse of why. It's about who you are going to be because of it, and where that's going to lead you to. But it's not something to beat yourself up over. It's just something for you to know and say, okay, I am depressed right now, but I'm going to move forward knowing that, and not beating myself down, but taking that to fuel this, and allowing it to be a positive thing. And I talk about that a lot in training, because, I can get so self-critical and I'll be like, wow, I'm just such a fucking shit shooter, or, oh, I'm not doing this right. Well, how about instead of what I'm doing wrong, I focus on what I need to do right to make it better, And so it's all about perspective. And I think now is the time for everybody to kind of take that time to think about these things, and not, be worried when they're doing it, to go into it open-minded, and also to have faith. Now is the time to have faith, and to really trust in the Lord, or trust in whatever you believe in, that, it's going to be okay, and to remain hopeful. Because, when you start thinking like, oh, the world is crashing, burning, and I'm going down with it and all this shit, well, that's going to influence, that intention behind it is going to influence what happens to you. So what intention and what influences are you going to allow into your space to influence what you become? You just gotta keep it positive. Gotta look up.
There wouldn't be any other way to wrap this up than after what you just said. I knew how this podcast was going to go the first 15 minutes we talked with each other, because we didn't even get into the podcast. Like, we were just really connecting, and I knew Shivey wasn't going to have a problem just with his firearms background, but I can't thank you enough for even opening up to the honesty that you do. numerous amounts of things that you hit in here that just drive home to me personally. I feel like the listeners who listen to this, who want positivity and motivation, this is one of the best shows that this is how I like showcasing this show. You, with how positive you are, with how much you push everything, and the fact that you actually did this show is kind of a milestone for where we're at. And I can't thank you enough for even coming on the show or even answering my fucking Instagram, because who am I? But it'll go down in a mark in where I want this to actually be with, I said to Jessie, I said, she wants to do the show. And I was like, we're like landing. I said, this format is working. We tried it out locally, and the message I want to get across, it's so hard to form something and then have strangers come in. It's one thing to have people locally, they know each other, but we don't know each other. And the fact that this vibe like this, like I said, it's a milestone with where we've taken the show, and I can't thank you enough for making it perfect in my eyes of how I want this show to be.
Oh, I appreciate that. But I want you guys to also know that, it's not possible without you. I've done a couple of different things, but you guys make it a really nice environment and inviting. You guys are cool. And I appreciate you guys you just being yourself, because I don't think any show could be anything like yours if it didn't have you running it and you behind it, and also your spirit and your heart and your beliefs and your value system and all that is both of you behind it. So I think you should contribute all of that success to everything that you guys have done, and continue rocking and have confidence in it, and know that you guys, the sky is the limit. Whatever you want to do, you can do it.
Thank you so much. I want to give you a chance to plug any of your sponsors or any of the projects that you're working on, or how anybody can, I'll be tagging you and I'll be in touch about the pushing the promos and stuff like that. But what's the best place to get all the information about you?
I'm Jade Struck on Instagram, and I pretty much, I'm mainly based off of Instagram, but I'm running a few other things, and I also have instructional stuff coming out soon. It's all online based, but it's on this website called Reach Live, so I'll be there too. But my Instagram is my home base, and you guys can find me there. And then also check out Blackwater Ammunition for the best ammo, and check out Battle Horse Knives for beautiful custom knives that are badass and durable as hell. And just keep rocking. And thanks for everything. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Jesse, do you have anything in closing?
No, this is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for everything, Jesse. It's so nice to meet you.
Yes.
I hope to see you guys with my own eyeballs in real life sometime soon.
Yes, we'll definitely, I want to do more stuff. And once this clears, we want to do some traveling with the show and stuff. So it'd be cool to do something down the road as well.
Okay, come shoot with me.
Yes, 100%.
Come on.
You do not have to ask us twice. I will figure it out.
Okay, awesome.
We'll rent a van.
Oh, fuck. Fly out here. I'll pick you up. And I got ammo. I got guns. We'll go out to the range, and I'll get you guys shooting better than me.
I am 100% taking you up on that. Jesse will probably be calling me to tell me that that's what we're doing.
I'm already texting you about it. Yes.
As soon as this is lifted, I expect a phone call. Hey, we're down the street at LAX. Okay, I'm on my way. I'll see you in 5.
I will 100% do that. Once again, thank you so much. And if anybody wants to check out anything else we do, it's neveragainstudio.com. Has all the previous podcasts, the videos, the clothing, everything we're doing. And then that's it. Thank you for listening. And you can check all of her stuff out at Jade Struck on Instagram. And thank you again. I just keep saying fucking thank you because I don't know how to close the show ever.
We're thankful. It's good. We're grateful. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah. All right, cool.